If you're here for Chasing the Spirit, you're in the right place. And if you're not here for the Chasing the Spirit, stay anyway. Awesome. So my name is Carla Leon, and I'm a member of EDGE and the project coordinator for Chasing the Spirit. And today we are going to do a bunch of really fun things. I'm hoping that every 10 minutes we're going to do something a little bit different. It's going to be like boom, boom, boom. First thing that we're going to be doing is actually introducing people who've already been doing some super creative, amazing things in a church context. So you're going to see what that looks like, and you're going to actually be able to ask them questions about how they got started and what that might look like in your context, or even like, what are you thinking? Any of these questions. Next thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to reveal the new name of Chasing the Spirit. And someone actually is winning a tablet for coming up with the name. So we're going to say who the winner is. Then we actually have some giveaways for everybody with the new name, so that we have notebooks so you can actually start jotting down ideas, coming up with your own ideas, and brainstorming so you can apply to Chasing the Spirit, which is the Innovation Fund. And then we're going to do something very cool. We're calling it the Mini Social Innovation Challenge. If you see here, we actually have 9 people who are pitching today.
Definitely not the Dragon's Den.
Definitely not the Dragon's Den, thank you. And we actually have pitches from across the country. We have 3 people who are going to be live today from various places in Ontario, from Ottawa to New Hamburg to, oh no, who's the last one? Oh, Toronto. Toronto, right? And then what we also have is 6 from across the country. Oh yes, in Ottawa. So we have one from Newfoundland. We have one from Nova Scotia. We have 2 from Saskatchewan. We have one from Montreal. And we have one from all the way from Burlington. Yes, so that's what we're going to do today. So Chasing the Spirit is the brand new innovation fund within United Church of Canada to promote innovation and to be a catalyst of trying new things. But to start us off, let's hear about some cool things that are already happening right here in Paris, Ontario. Raw Carrot, Colleen, come on up.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Carla, and I am very appreciative to be here today. I am very excited to attend my first Skylight Festival and to see what all the excitement is about. So thank you very much. So have you ever had one of those moments in your life when you think there's got to be more to life than this? Have you ever sat there and thought, the work that I do, I want it to make a difference. I can see things in my community that I would love to see changed, and I think I have the ability to make that impact. If you've ever been there, then you were where Rebecca and I, Rebecca's my business partner, where we were about 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago. And we saw things in our community that we felt that we could have some impact with. Sorry. Perfect. So there was a number of individuals within the community that we lived. We were raising our families, we're working, we're active in our church community, and there was a number of individuals who we saw that had a lot of the same desires. They were looking for steady work. They were looking for work that had flexible schedules that would meet their needs due to emotional, physical, intellectual, all the different needs that they had. They were looking for a space where their abilities and skills were valued and where they could use them. And they were looking for the dignity of work, of participating in the Canadian economy. We live in Paris. You've seen our beautiful town. You've come here. It's gorgeous. It's also an extremely affluent town, which is wonderful, but it's tough. It's a small town, which means there's no public transit whatsoever. So if you don't have a car or have a driver's license, you are reliant on the expensive taxi system that we have. And there is very little multi-family housing within Paris, apartment buildings, condos. There's very little of that. And what there is of that, there is very little subsidized housing. So this is a situation which we're in. The individuals that we were chatting with about these different pieces, all of them were also on the Ontario Disability Support Program, and they were part of that, which means, you know, they get a stipend from the government to help with living expenses, and they get some other supports through the program as well. We believe the program runs very well. but there's also some limitations to the program, which I think many of us are aware of. So with all these pieces, Rebecca and I sat back and went, how do you find and keep a job here in this small town? So Peter says in 1 Peter, each one should use whatever gift he has received to serve others, faithfully administering God's grace in its various forms, so that in all things God may be praised through Jesus Christ. God placed a desire on Rebecca's and my heart. He placed an uncomfortableness with a situation within which we were seeing, and he placed that call for us to leave both of our careers and fully put our trust in him in all facets of our lives. We truly believe that it has been God's calling that has developed the Raw Carrot, and it has 100% been God's work through us that has helped us to be successful. And this is where the Raw Carrot was born. So the vision of the Raw Carrot is to create meaningful work for individuals who cannot thrive within the traditional work environment. How do we do this? We hire individuals within the community of Paris and Brantford, and all those individuals are on the Ontario Disability Support Program. They're individuals who have held numerous jobs in the past and not been able to maintain them. We offer them training in food preparation and kitchen skills, and then we train them to make gourmet soup and bread. We then freeze it and sell it to our local community. At the end of this, we reinvest all of our proceeds back into the business, back into hiring and training more individuals. So the more soup we sell, the more people that we can provide employment for. So the Raw Carrot is a social enterprise, but we do run under the umbrella of the Presbyterian Church here in town. It's the big red church. As you come up the hill, you probably saw us. As part of the church, it means that we have registered charity status, and we can provide receipts for anyone who provides monetary donations to us. All of our proceeds must go back into the work of the social enterprise. They cannot be tied into the operating budget of the church. The session of our church, I know every church has a different terminology for that, but our governing body of our church, of our local church, is our board of directors, and we report directly to them. And we are a faith-based organization. I've explained to you how we came to be, but does that mean you have to be Christian to work for us? Absolutely not. We have staff that come from various experiences, beliefs, and many different backgrounds, and we welcome them all. In our first year of operation, we sold over $25,000 worth of soup, and we were able to pay 5 part-time staff members over $13,000, and we won the first Social Innovation Challenge in Toronto, which was very exciting. So in the beginning, we sold our soup through retail hours at the church, as well as at community festivals around Paris and Brantford. One of them is actually held right here, and we're in the Agriplex every year in September. Today we continue to sell locally, but we've also started to branch out our retail side, and that's where our funding through the Social Innovation Challenge was really supportive to us. We were able to get store ready, and so we are now in a number of farm markets. We have a number of churches in other towns, Woodstock and Hamilton and a couple others, where we are sold to their community through their churches. And then we're also just in the final phases of contract signing with a local grocery store called Farm Boy that has multiple locations in this area, and then also in Ottawa and in London. So our soup is delicious and it's healthy, but as amazing as our soup is, it's not really about the soup. So I'd like to introduce you to our 7 part-time staff members. This first slide is our first 5, and then our next 2. So when Rebecca and I look at impact, when we talk about real impact of a social enterprise, there's many different ways people measure us and ask to understand us. But for us, our impact is the professional and the personal growth that we see within all of our staff members. And actually, I meant to mention, one of my staff members, Lori, is here with me today, sitting at the front. So afterwards, feel free to say hello to Lori. You're going to get to hear a little bit from Lori in a couple minutes, but she's been with us since the very beginning when this was just a what-if idea, and would you like to come and work in a kitchen? So I want to share some of the stories of our staff. That's okay. So the first staff member that we're going to introduce you to is Ryan. He's a young gentleman who lives in Brantford. He's a young father of 3, and he's been working really hard over the last 2 years to become a father that his kids can be proud of. Having a steady job has been a huge piece for him in that journey.
What the rock carrot was, I'd tell them it's real soup, you know what I mean? It's the soup that your grandma makes. It's the soup that you grew up with, just in a bag, you know what I mean? Non-microwavable, safe bag. It's wholesome, it's homemade, everything's it's all made by us, and I think it's part of the satisfaction is that we know that we're making a good product, you know what I mean? Everybody has a place, it's like a big puzzle, you know what I mean? Everybody's got their pieces that just fit together in order to make the right product and everything like that. If people are missing, we can tell, not just from their lack of appearance, but the product itself changes.
All in one, it's like a big family, and we all care about each other's feelings and what's going on in it.
And then our last video is Kathy. She's also an individual who lives here in Paris. She came to us and said, I don't like to cook, but I want some work. And so we had a long chat with her, and we found out that actually Kathy is amazing with numbers. So she runs our retail hours and our retail sales, and I can tell you her accounts have balanced every single week. I am so thankful for Kathy.
Making a difference.
So as you can see, it's really not about the soup. The skills that our staff have over the last 2 years go way beyond the kitchen. All of our kitchen certificates, as well as a certificate in bread making, which was a huge accomplishment for all of them. Our staff are learning to communicate professionally and in productive ways with each other. They've learned the exhilaration of hard work and a job well done at the end of the day. And they're all gaining self-confidence in the skills that they've learned, and they are now starting to become more and more involved in the different decisions being made for the business. So as part of this, we have a very dedicated group of volunteers, and as part of the Raw Carrot vision, our volunteers hold 3 main roles. One, their role is to be part of training and skills development within the kitchen. They're there to be a sounding board for the staff so that if the staff are experiencing they can have discussion with the volunteers and help to work through some of those different pieces. Staff, when you have mental health challenges, physical challenges, sometimes you can't come to work every single day depending on what's happening in your life, and so our volunteers. So thank you. I didn't like that buzzer at the challenge.
So I'm going to ask Colleen to stay up there for a little bit, and we don't have too much time, but any questions? Does anybody want to ask a question or a comment? Okay, I see one right back here. What's your name and where you're from?
Bruce Hutchinson, Kingston. Do you use the church kitchen to prepare the foods?
We do.
And is there any compensation for the church?
It's about 80% commercially certified when we came up with this plan. We then worked with the church and we secured some funding to bring it to the last 100%. It had been certified in the past, obviously regulations changed, so we had to upgrade to those regulations. We've had huge support from our local church, and they really footed the majority of the bill for those renovations. The church does not, so we get tons of support from the church. We do not pay back into the church. And so the churches, it gives us, all of our space in lieu, it gives us heat, hydro, water, all of those pieces. But in turn, all of our other funding is grant funded. So the church doesn't pay for the staff, it doesn't pay for any of the ingredients, it doesn't pay for any of the support and the coordination work that Rebecca and I do. That is all grant driven or driven through sales.
Love to hear another big round of applause for Colleen and Parrot and Lauren. left some brochures on the side, so if you have other questions, and she's also going to be here for a little while, so if you have other questions for her, please reach out to her.
They're there to do the work so that when the staff...
That keeps bouncing back to you. It kept landing back in my lap. It's an idea that actually can be shared and used in almost any neighborhood. So if this starts to tweak your interest, come and talk to me afterwards. But I'm going to start with telling the story. Does anybody know the stone soup story? Yeah. So there's a legend, and it's told a number of different ways. The way that I was told was that there was a group of monks walking through the Himalayan mountains, and the younger monk said to the older one, "Tell me the secret of happiness." And the older one said, "That's a very good question. Let's seek that answer together." And they wandered, and later that day they wandered into a village, and no one met them at the gates of the village. And in fact, when they wandered through the town, every single door was closed. No one was playing in the streets, talking to each other. No one came out to say hello. There were a few children, however, peeking around corners. There were a few curtains twitching. And so the elder monk said, "Today we are going to have a feast. If only I had one large pot, we're going to make some stone soup with it." And a child said, "I have a pot." And he went home and he got his mother's big pot, and they put it in the center of town. And they filled it with water, and they put in some stones. And they began to stir, and they began to talk about this feast that they were going to feed the entire village with. And more curtains started to part, and more doors started to open. And then the elder monk said, "This is the best stone soup I think I've ever had. You know what would make it just a little bit better? An onion." And one of the villagers said, "I have an onion." And so the story goes, you know what would make this a little better? A carrot. And by the end of the afternoon, every single villager had come out of their doors, had shared something that they had to give. And by that evening, a large table was set in the center of town, and everybody feasted together. There was music, there was talking, there was such joy. And the next morning as they left, all the villagers came to the gate to wave goodbye to them. And they discovered the secret of happiness. Now, I think this is kind of an analogy for the church, or at least the ideal, the healthy church. When I think about the church of the past, we had everybody coming to church most Sundays. It was the social hub. It was the place where you came to get connected. It was your spiritual grounding. But now, more and more, we have a number of places where people go, and church isn't the center of people's lives anymore. And so, for example, when somebody gets ill or injured, the church is sometimes the last to know. In the past, it would be Mrs. Smith would fall down the stairs and hurt her leg, and somebody would immediately come and pick up the children and take them to school, and somebody else would make a casserole, and somebody else would check in on them. And I started to wonder, could we do this kind of caring again? And we certainly have tried many times to invite people in. Come in, we're a community, we'll take care of you. But what if we went out? What if we took this idea that is ancient, that is really what the church is at core all about, and we took it into our communities, and we said to our communities, let's create a stone soup feast together. So I have to back up a minute and tell you two stories in my own ministry that came together to sort of pop this idea into life. One is that we had refugees living inside our church. And I had to go and ask for everything for them, from food to dentists to haircuts. And I was very worried about going out and making all of these demands on all my neighbors, many who had never been into the church. And I remember that every single time I asked, the response I got was overwhelmingly positive. In one case, I walked into the local hairdresser, and I walked up to the young lady at the counter, and I said, "They can't pay. They can't even come in here, but a haircut would be so meaningful to them right now because they feel so low." And she said, "Alexa, you're never going to believe this, but just last night I was sitting on my sofa with my fiance, and I was saying to him, I really want to do something good in the world, but all I know how to do is cut hair." And it dawned on me, when we are asked to give what only we can give, not just signing a check to a charity which has an element of goodness to it, but that you matter, what you and you alone do matter, then we suddenly feel of value. We come alive when we're asked to participate in the making of stone soup. The other piece that kept coming to me was that I the end of month rent, and it started to occur to me that it takes more than food gift cards to feed the soul. There was a father who came to me. His wife had breast cancer. His children had various forms of autism. And he'd gone several years with me, always very stoic, always very proud. He was sitting in my office in tears. And I thought, what could be so awful? Like, you have gone through so much. Like, what has happened? And he said, it's my wife's birthday on Saturday, and the children want me to take her to Swiss Chalet to celebrate, and I can't even get groceries for tomorrow. What kind of a man am I? And I realized that when we can't celebrate life together, when all we're doing is scraping by and getting the basic necessities of life, then it tears at our soul. And it's hard to feel that sense of value and pride. So Stone Soup invites everyone in the neighborhood to share from their abundance with those who most need that gift. And the way that we do it is we have a database that we're collecting all of these great gifts: a haircut, a massage, a mentorship for a young person who thinks they want to become a lawyer, maybe with a lawyer. And we gather all of these gifts into a central database. We let all of the social connectors in our neighborhood know about them. So the ministers, the social workers, the community housing staff, anybody who, first line responders and doctors. And they connect people who have a need for a birthday party for a 4-year-old, or someone who's been working on their feet all night with a massage. And the thing is, we've kept it local, very specifically, because we want people to get to know each other. We want people to network. It's not a Toronto-wide piece. It's in our local area of Bloor West. So that as we start to share our gifts with each other, we start to get to know each other. We start to break down barriers that were once there. And at the moment, we are about to launch this officially on October 18th. And our next dream is that once we run this pilot for 6 months to a year, we might be ready to invite other neighborhoods from anywhere across Canada to think about their own Stone Soup network. We'll have the infrastructure in place. You'll be able to come to us and we'll have some of the wisdom already figured out. And you'll be able to have it spin in your own sort of way as to what is the identity of your neighborhood. What are the needs in your neighborhood? This idea was an idea I kept giving away until the Social Innovation Challenge came along. And I thought maybe I'd give it away at the Social Innovation Challenge. Or maybe I'd at least find out that it was a really bad idea and I should just forget about it. And instead I ended up being one of the winners at the Social Innovation Challenge last year. So with a little bit of money and a lot of mentorship, we've gotten to a place where we've got some staff on board, we've got an entire community on board. I'm telling you, the city councillor, the staff at the social housing, there's just an incredible amount of people wanting this to get up and running. And so I have absolutely no doubt that the Spirit is at work in this, and that we're looking at another way of being church in the community, inviting people into discipleship, inviting people into caring for one another, inviting people to open their doors and share what they have so we can have a feast together.
Amazing, as per usual. Questions, comments? There's room up here if people want to move in and sit on the grass too. Questions, comments? Rob always, come on.
So much good about both of these stories, and I mean, it's reframing my theology of the table to sound like a minister. But like, who comes to the table and what place they have at the table, and so that's wonderful. I'm interested about the beginnings though, because both of you now have journeyed a fair way, and there may be people here who are just at the very beginning of an idea. And you all sound so, it all sounds so impressive and big, but I know that these things start at a very small spark. So I wonder if maybe even either of you could talk just about that. You talked a little bit about it, but how did you actually get there?
So I think one of the things is listening to the intuition, looking out at your community and asking what are the needs in a community. In our congregation, we were looking around and asking, what is the need here? Where's God at work? Where's the energy? And going with the energy. So then I started asking about people about this story and telling people about this idea, and the energy kept building. People kept saying, that's a great idea. So I would say talk about the idea. And the Social Innovation Challenge was probably, was the catalyst for really moving that idea from an idea into action. So come to the next one, or and come and talk to other people who are here right now today, the 9 that are going to be here, to the 2 of us. I have an info sheet over on the side there, so I can leave that and people can grab that. But talk about it. There's tons of funding out there. Carla's a great source. Edge is a great source. We had some help from Edge. So you're definitely not alone. If you've got a great idea, be brave, because we need you.
So when we talk about the beginning, I'm going to take it back even farther. Rebecca and I were sitting on our couch having a glass of wine. It was exactly where we started. It can be coffee, it can be whatever you want it to be. And we were sitting there going, we both see this need, we both feel challenged by God to do something about it. What's it going to be and how big are we going to be? And so honestly, we started looking at some different pieces, and our first steps were to start applying for grants. We need money to make this happen. We first went to our church session and said, this is what we're thinking about. Would you support us? And they said, great idea. We have no money to support you with. So if you can figure it out, we're happy to let you use the kitchen. So we looked at each other and went, oh great, okay, here we go. So we started applying for all kinds of grants. We got turned down for every single one at the beginning because we had no history, we had no track record, and at that point in time, we were too little. We were small potatoes to everybody else. And so once we looked at that point in time, I had already asked for my leave of absence from work, and I wasn't going back at that point in time, and Rebecca was in the same position, and we said, well, let's start. We've got, between us, we had a little bit of seed capital. It was a little bit. By a little, I mean about $2,000. And we said, well, if we can buy ingredients and sell that soup, then we can buy some more ingredients and sell the next bit of soup. And people like Lori, we started with three staff members, sometimes 4, and we said to them, would you come and volunteer? We are trying to do this. We are trying to do it to get you work and meaningful work, but right now we have no money to pay you. And so they, through faith, came to us and said, yeah, we'll do that. So we started cooking soup, and we started selling soup, which then meant we would give as much of the proceeds from what we were selling back to Lori and the rest of the staff. It was not minimum wage at that point in time. It was definitely a stipend, and we can't talk about that. But that's what we did. And Rebecca and I were working for free. We were volunteering all of our time to do this. It's a full-time job for one person. It's part-time for both of us. And that's where it grew. And then we finally got our first granting group to say, yes, we will give you money because you've now got a little bit of traction going. At that point, the health unit came and said, we're shutting you down because your kitchen isn't fully certified. And that's when we went to the church, and the church said, you've proven enough of this, and you've proven that you're actually going to be able to make a difference for these people. We are willing to support the upgrading of the kitchen because it can be used by absolutely everybody. And so it's that piece. You just start. We jumped in. Right or wrong, we jumped in. And that's when I talk about having faith in what God was calling us to do. It was a full jump. And that's where we went, and we started talking and telling everybody what we were doing. And then someone sent us an email and said, hey, there's a challenge going on in Toronto. You guys would be perfect. And so we applied, having no idea. And so you got to start. That's our piece. You got to start.
I was also going to just add that go with those who say yes. So at Windermere United Church, where this is happening in Bloor West, we just needed enough people to say yes. So often our church tries to look for everybody has to get involved in this. If there's enough people who say yes, then those who say no step away and let those who say yes do it. And that is one of the things that we do really, really well at Windermere. We have a bunch of new innovations, and we just say if there's enough people to say yes, and the Spirit's at work. So.
So thank you very much, both Alexa and Colleen. And what's really neat is we've now seen initiatives that have gone for some time, so over a year, 2 years, growing, and now for something very different, brand new, maybe in the last 2 months, couple of months, is the Center for the Arts in Bradford United Church. Jim.
Yeah, this is a very new project that's just starting to bud now, but it grows out of a reflection of several years of our congregation in terms of really reflecting on who we are and who our neighbor is and where we're going. And how do we engage in meaningful praxis in this time in the context that we're in? And it's as we all know, it's a difficult context to break out the Spirit, to share our faith, to live it. Okay, sorry. So you didn't hear anything, good. Start all over again. No, you could hear preacher. Okay. But so the best expression of the challenge I think many of us have was a friend of mine. He's a morning man on otherwise a conservative radio station, John Moore on 1010, but he's sort of a libertarian, liberal type of guy. And you remember a couple of weeks ago when the Anglican Church made their decision regarding same-sex marriage and so on. Well, he had mentioned, he said it offhand, he said, I suppose this doesn't really mean anything to hardly any of my listeners because very few people go to church anymore, but then he went on to name it. So I called him, I said, I agree with you, but, some alternatives. And he said back, he said, when I say it doesn't matter what happens in the church, that isn't to disparage people of faith, just to point out that churchgoers are a dwindling cohort. He's an atheist, actually. I respect those who find purpose in fate, and I'm always mindful of the good work they do. But I've also watched my friend Bishop Bruce Myers preach to 20 people, and when the Sunday school teacher retires, when the Sunday school goes off to retire, it's 2 kids and their mom for a teacher. So, I mean, that's his perspective, and many see church as something like at best, a grandfather clock that bongs in the hallway, sort of nice and quaint, or the church lady from the old show Laughing, I'm giving my age off, or various bad ministers or priests or so on. But we are followers, certainly our congregation of Jesus, and we belong to a community of soul folk like that. And our united community in Bradford sees themselves as followers of Jesus and his teachings. And they learn and reflect and interpret what that means, and they receive and they see that as engaging in ministries of healing, of bringing nurture and hope to the least, the last, and the lost, of sharing with others the tools of forgiveness and peacemaking they've been given as Christ followers, and to celebrate that with all the gift of creation and humanness. So we see ourselves in the making whole business, not the religious business. Actually, religion and church more often not get in the way of engaging in our vocation as Christians. We find collaboration, engagement to build neighborhoods of wealth of wealth and well-being with all folks and groups, religious or otherwise, in our community, and ultimately learning with all human beings to look after the common, which is what we've been called to do. The opportunity, so when we started, we arrived at that as a congregation. And we gather on Sundays to reflect on those stories and experience a mystical presence that gives us the power for the passion possible to go out and live and reflect and grow in our understanding of Christ's mission here. So the three requirements, and we're engaging in a number of different types of small new ministries, but it had to give us an opportunity to engage in Christian praxis in the community. It had to have the purpose of building wholeness, and in the case of this one, of creating a center with local artists, it wasn't just creating the center, but it was also creating a coalition of artists in the area to actually run that center and decide how it would develop. And the third was make this a sustainable ministry, not in terms of the operating, to contribute to the operating expenses of our congregation. We make that. We have a big old historic building, and as we become integral to the community, obviously we can get grants to sustain the building. But the main thing was the ministry was sustainable, not just in terms of money, but also in terms of volunteers. So obviously, as this coalition develops into an organization that runs a center, it's not drawing on our church volunteers, other than there's some people that are very interested in our congregation involved. So it's neither for fundraising or for getting, certainly in the first instance anyway, more people in the pews. But it will have a spiritual impact. Curious people coming into the building who might not otherwise consider entering. And we just had our first concert event last Saturday. It was very hot and we don't have air conditioning yet. We had about 75 people come to listen to a very fine recitalist classical pianist. It was beer and Bach. It was a celebration of beer and Bach. And a flautist, and it was a wonderful event. The good thing about it, that was all organized by a couple of people from the congregation, but 3 or 4 other people of different art performance groups in the area were also part of that core group that did that. So it's the second, making the space more open to the community and an invitation to the local artists to express themselves. That's a spiritual practice. And of connecting them with other artists who feel isolated. 3, of validating the present sense of the congregation to move forward in this manner. We do that by providing hands-on experience of engaging in a collaborative enterprise with community partners to celebrate together the lifting up of the joy of human creativity and life in the local context. And 4, this type of relationship with the community provides an opportunity to experience authentic Christian praxis of walking with others in the community into a future unknown, but always with the effective presence of Christ in our midst. That's what we're experiencing. So we started this, and we're starting this not just only on the cheap, we're starting really from a grassroots level. The first step was to advertise for people to come to a focus group from the community, and we made some of our own contacts from the artistic, the musical, and the performance community. Our board had already agreed of certain renovations that they were going to be doing anyway, and that would be very helpful for a performance community. The second, after we had the focus group, there was enough will within the local community to have a second meeting to decide what events. We were going to then do 3 events, which Edge has helped us with in terms of applying for a very beginning small, what is the actual?
An innovation grant.
An innovation grant. Very small, to have 3 events to not just test out with the popularity of the space, See, we have a wonderful acoustics, and it's an old 167-year-old building with plaster and wood, and you can't get any better acoustics. But also to see if there was was this idea of creating a coalition to actually run a center feasible. So our next event that we're going to have is during there's a festival in Bradford. You know, it's a farming community. It's a Carrot Fest, okay, on the 20th, and we're a part of that fest. An all-day event is taking place at our congregation where there'll be visual art and acoustical music, and a lot of performance art. And the first event was very much a success. The town is very much with us. The mayor was at that particular event and has given me a lot of hints to move forward that way. And then I got a call the day after the event from the county of Simcoe's. It's a program run by their paramedics, and asked if we could get a defibrillator. If one was donated to us, would we like it? And they had heard we were doing this work in the community, and we would be having a lot of people in it. And then I got a call Friday that we're getting a free defibrillator and training for 12 for the first year and into the program. So that was just one little affirmation from the community. So we're very much right at the very beginning. We're doing if we do develop this coalition into an actual group to run the program, by the end of October, we'll have done some refurbishing in our sanctuary, which will lead to a space of 40 or 50 people will be able. And then from there, we have step-by-step yearly plans for changes and renovations. So that's where I'm at. So questions and answers.
So, Jim, what's the size of Bradford?
The town? Yeah, it's about 30,000 now, 30, with 12 churches. 12 or 13, 13 I think, and 2 mosques.
So what we just saw there is that starting in the last 2 months, instead of actually just starting this up, how do we do it? So we get a focus group, we bring in partners, we just start getting started, right? And see if we are planning on doing this and we put our hands out there, will people come? So for the focus group, you had like 12 different artist groups represented. Then they came back with leadership popping up, and then they had over 70 people, almost 80 people for their first event. So that's what we saw in 2 months happen. And competing with Rib Fest, so that was key. So I just want to show this is kind of the trajectory and the motion that you want to see happen. If something's gaining traction, that's what you'd see. So Jim, thank you for all your great work. So Chasing the Spirit is all about innovation. And what's neat is that we've actually heard 3 church stories that are all very unsuspectingly church. So how does church and innovation go together? I'm going to invite Nora up now to talk about that and why Chasing the Spirit is so important and why innovation with the church is so important. Welcome, Nora.
Thank you very much, Carla. You know, God is at work in the world, and we're hearing and seeing lots of evidence of that today. And I was thinking, for those that were camping, you probably started seeing the evidence about 3 o'clock this morning. Did you know how hard those farmers in Brant County have been praying for rain? And we got it today. But anyway, here we are, and it stopped long enough for people to sit outside and enjoy and not get too sunburned. So here we go. But what great stories we've heard. And I just loved the 2 suggestions we had from our first 2 speakers. One was just get started, and the other was go with the people that say yes. And both of those sounded to me like great advice. We are in, as has been mentioned, and Jim was just saying, times of change, and the role of church in the world is changing. And I consider that this time of change to be an invitation to those that like to try new things. It's a time for the dreamers, it's a time for the doers, it's a time for new ways for God to work within you just the stories we've heard of people sitting down and saying, I wonder what we could do that would be different. Wonder what we could do that would make a difference for our neighbors. This is the oldest Christian story, is how do we do things for others? How do we do things for our neighbors? And as our society changes, we do those things in new ways. I'm so excited. I haven't been in a social innovation challenge yet, and I think we're about to have one in a few minutes. But before that, something even more exciting, which is a new name. So I'm going to pass this back to Carla, because we're all like waiting to hear.
I know. So now is the time. Thank you, Nora. So Chasing the Spirit, the new name, we had a contest that started, I don't even remember when it was, April, May, and we had over 200 names that were entered. From that, we had a naming committee who helped make sure that we got it down to 10 names, 8 names that were really going to illustrate what we wanted to do with the Innovation Fund and encourage and inspire. And so we actually have highlighted the top 9 that didn't make it. Inspirited is not the new name. Spirit Alive is not the new name. A Rising Spirit is not the new name. Engaging Spirit is not the new name. This is fun, right? Also, Igniting Missions, not the new name. So if you were part of the voting here, this didn't happen. New Wineskins is not the new name. Chasing the Spirit is not the new name. Is that shocking to anyone? So that came in third. The second most selected name was Dancing with the Spirit. So, what is the new name? Well, actually, we had 7 people who came up with the new name. And they all had different rationale. So the first piece of rationale was, so maybe you can guess this now, the Spirit is all around us at all times, and we must blank the Spirit and allow the Spirit to influence our lives and give us strength and wisdom. Another rationale is, the Spirit is already there. We need to blank it. It is next to us, and we need to hold its hand as it leads us on. It is about letting go and trusting where it will take us. It is risky because we open ourselves to another. It is a position of vulnerability and trust. Another person said, blank the Spirit reaffirms that the Spirit is always present to us, patiently waiting to be acknowledged, to be welcomed. All we need to do is open ourselves up, allowing the Spirit in, so we're complete and fully equipped to do the work that God has put before us. So, drum roll, please. Embracing the Spirit is the new name. So what's going to happen now? Chris, can you wave? We actually have tattoos of the new Embracing the Spirit logo. So if you would like a tattoo, it's not permanent, okay? You could make it permanent, though, if you wanted to afterwards. But Chris, if you would like, please don't leave him alone. Someone go and get a tattoo. He can help out in getting this on you. You can have more than one if you like. The other thing that we have are actually notebooks with Embracing the Spirit. And so Joanne is going to be passing these around as well as Leslie. Rob, do you want to help too? And they're actually recycled paper. And the whole idea is that as you're starting to come up with your own ideas, because you can apply for the innovation grant, write down your ideas, brainstorm them, take notes. So if you'd like one of these, it comes with little pens too. So embrace the Spirit and get a tattoo. So now we're ready.
Thank you.
And also, so the winner is the first person who actually came up with the name Embracing the Spirit was Heather Dutoff from Saskatchewan Conference, actually. And she said it captures the original intent. Use the word embracing as a positive and purposeful action. Embracing is accepting and taking on the challenge. Yay. So as I have people running around, and please feel free to get your tattoos, we're going to move into the Social Innovation Challenge Skylight style. So, Social Innovation Challenge, we're actually going to play a quick video to explain how to come up with a great idea and get ready to pitch. You may or may not recognize the person in this video. Okay, great. So that is the Social Innovation Challenge, and how it's going to work here, because it's going to be a little bit different, because we're just going to go boom, boom, boom. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to have both live and video pitches. Each pitch is 2 minutes in length. Just the next slide. And it's 2 minutes in length, and it actually has to get what we call the quadruple bottom line. So that means that the ideas need to have a financial impact, a social impact, an ecological impact, and a spiritual impact. Then what's going to happen is after the pitch, we actually have panelists here who are going to give us feedback. So the first panelist is our financial hat. It's Rob Dalgleish, and you can actually see he has a hat beside him. It's his financial hat. They can decide to wear it if they want to. It's not necessary. Our second person here is Barb, and Barb has the social hat, which is the nice smiley face. Then we have Ramsha, who is our ecological hat, and you don't have to wear it. And actually, I should give a little bit background. Sorry, Rob is actually with Edge. He does have his MBA, so that does qualify him for the financial hat. Then we have Barb, who actually has worked with the self-employment benefits, so startups and coaching on that side, but also is a minister. So having the social hat makes a lot of sense. Then Ramsha, she's actually with Faith in the Common Good and Green Sacred Spaces. She actually has some brochures over here as well if you are interested in that, so very qualified for the ecological hat. And then we have Cheryl. And Cheryl's with Mission Service, and she is going to be guiding us on the spiritual hat. So without any further ado, our first pitch is going to be about a brewery. So craft beer. Jeff.
And it's actually entitled Chasing the Spirits. I received this bottle of, I'm not sure what I'm speaking into. It's empty, really it is. I received this bottle of Blondale from a friend, Kevin, some months ago. It's Saint of Circumstance, and it's brewed by the Collective Arts Brewing in Burlington, Ontario. First some etymology, and then just a quick object lesson. Saint is defined as a person who is very good, kind, and patient, and demonstrates this by the way he or she lives. Circumstance is a condition or fact that affects a situation. So remember these definitions. Now the object lesson. We're going to play just a quick game of spin the bottle. And you don't have to kiss me if this points to you, but you do have to promise to smile and cheer, and maybe if it's appropriate, poop and give me all kinds of support. So here we go. Oh, I gotta get it pointed somewhere. There we go. Hey. Awesome. Okay. Here we go. The object lesson is that it's not the bottle itself that's important, but it's what it's pointing to. Remember this. Saint, circumstance, bottle. I've had 17 years in public education, 15 years in the church, and have had the privilege of getting to know many incredibly gifted individuals. Sarah, not her real name, is but one example of someone that I've come to know. She's recently completed her Enneagram training. She has an MDiv from an Ivy League university. She has a vision for an urban retreat center, and she will soon be accredited as a spiritual director. And it's unlikely that the institutional church will be able to welcome her in ways that her unique constellation of gifts might flourish. Who are the Sarahs and the Abrahams that you know? We know that the demands of leadership are changing for the post-Christendom church, and we desperately need people like Sarah who are equipped to and encouraged to lead lives for the good of the world rather than for the preservation of institution. This kind of leadership won't be lived at the center of the church, but on the edges, where liminal space offers the gift of incredible challenge and deep transformation, where the path is one of emptying and surrender, rather than of striving, achieving, or succeeding. Leadership is requiring different things of us right now. It has to do with character and culture, rather than strategies and structures. For the past year and a bit, I've been messing with what the container, no pun intended, is for this kind of leadership equipping and encouraging. Here's what's emerging. Here's what it might look like. I envision an aesthetically pleasing, welcoming space to equip people to lead with their lives, to strengthen and catalyze their unique gifts, to experience authentic community, and to sustain lifelong mentoring and companioning relationships. I envision a social enterprise, such as a craft brewery, as a mechanism for revenue generation and an instructional metaphor for leadership formation. Most importantly, the work must be grounded in contemplative practice, where action is fueled and sustained by a deep sense of awareness of self, of others, and the connection to the whole of life. Imagine integrating a craft brewery, a pub gathering space, and a leadership equipping space. Imagine a LEED certified building to hold these three, constructed of stone and wood with much natural light, where gracious hospitality is practiced, where life is celebrated through the sharing of food and drink, where sustained, nurturing relationships are the norm, where character is formed, where there's fruitful action, catalyzed by deep listening and attentiveness. I'm not here to convince you of anything. Talk to the emerging leaders in your life. Ask them what they're longing for. Ask them what they're noticing about themselves, about others, about the broader culture. Ask yourself what you know to be true about leadership. So, who are the up-and-coming Sarahs and Abes among us who need to be reminded that the seemingly impossible task of truly activating their gifts is possible? So who are the new saints whose lives are to be nurtured, to use circumstance well, affecting or perhaps infecting the world with goodness and love? We need them, and they need us. Thank you.
So what's going to happen now is our quadruple bottom line team here is each going to say whether or not it passed their bottom line or give feedback on how to improve their bottom line. So financial first.
Okay. So wonderful job, Jeff. Well done. Thank you. And a couple of things that really recommend this from a financial sustainability aspect. You have a product, beer, and you have a product in what is an emerging market, certainly in Ontario. Craft breweries are big, they're on the rise, so that's good. And I know we haven't had a lot of time for kind of the financial plan or the business plan. Get one. Okay, good. Get a mentor, get that fleshed out. The second piece is around spiritual development, and there is a yearning, and there is for that kind of community and support. And that's also, I would call it a growth market. So finding the financial model, keep up the good work. So.
Well, before I even begin to ask my question, I'm going to tell you my bell is broken. So, all right, so, but I get a sense of radical welcoming from you and your idea. And that's great. I see you welcoming all sorts of people in. But there's a part of me that needs a better handle on who that group is. And without stifling your openness, I think you need to get a little bit better handle maybe on the people that you're targeting. I'd like to know a little bit more about these people. Who are they? Where do they live? Where are you going to recruit from? Things like that. So I've got sort of a weak little ding, but it's a ding.
Okay, great. Perfect.
All right, great work. I really liked the idea. The ecological aspect of it is very difficult for any project in corporate. But I like that you mentioned the LEED certified building, even just thinking about that was a good first step. And then you mentioned having some open green space, very welcoming for people coming out to use that as inspiration and healing. Maybe mentioning something about how the product that you're creating how that has more of an ecological impact, and how if you're going to use local resources and things like that would really help reduce your overall impact. But I think great work and good with me.
Are you ringing your bell?
Yes.
It's an exciting idea and interesting to hear about the combination of building community space and a business activity and the combination of that. The thing that strikes me that was really exciting was a sense of spiritual practice, spiritual community, with the intent of people being able to live lives for the greater good. So beyond that, so really equipping people. So I heard that. It'd be great to hear a bit more. I think what I heard you on the edge of talking about too was it was a different pace of life that's being offered. So a different way of life, but there's something about a different pace of life that offers a way of being open to new practices. Would be it just sounds like such a juicy idea. I look forward to hearing more. So I'll ring my bell.
If it works. Okay. Awesome. So any questions for Jeff? Because this is one of our live people. Okay, then clap it out for Jeff. So our next three are actually all videos. Before I jump into that, I just wanted to note up front here, we have little like mailboxes. So for each of the pitches that you're hearing, in the book that you have, or we have extra paper as well, if you have any comments, questions, maybe you want to learn more, maybe provide your contact information, you can actually mail it to the people who are pitching. Okay, so if you're like, oh, you should talk to this person, or I want to be involved, you can add that in here. So you can mail people, so keep notes as well. So our second pitch is Bereavement Center at St. Genevieve in Montreal.
St. Genevieve United Church is a 58-year-old United Church of Canada congregation in Dollard-des-Ormeaux, Quebec. Once a thriving church home to more than 200 families, we are now struggling to survive because of changing community demographics, an aging church population, dwindling attendance, and reduced financial support. Despite all of this, we continue our community outreach by cultivating relationships with many other stakeholders and associations in our area. Recently, Quebec Presbytery approved our request to sell our building to Voluntas Commemoration Incorporated. This would take place over a 12-year period while we continue to occupy the sanctuary in order to follow and achieve our newly adopted mission and vision. Our initial plan is to create a bereavement center in partnership with organizations such as the West Island Palliative Care Residence that will be complemented by our close relationship with Voluntas. In time, we hope to create a more comprehensive wellness center by building on services already provided by groups such as Healing Pathways, Al-Anon, Overeaters, and Recovery, who regularly meet at our facility. We wish to continue to pursue our goal and develop new partnerships with schools, community organizations, and West Island corporations through their employee counseling services. In addition, we wish to provide individuals in our community with a safe environment in which to deal with all of life's dilemmas and transitions. To achieve our mission, we require additional funding, and to this end, we would like to request your help through your Chasing the Spirit Fund. Funds are necessary to hire a part-time program coordinator. Plus, we need to engage an architect and builder to convert our sanctuary into the required multipurpose facility. If we can begin to realize our mission and vision for the wider community in this way, we believe that we will not only breathe new life into our congregation, but also become more financially secure. A more extensive use of our building would enhance our reputation in the community and make our maintenance costs more sustainable. With all of these ideas in mind, it is our hope that we may even attract new members and adherents to attend our worship services. For our church to remain a pillar of the community, we must adapt to change. We believe this plan allows us to achieve that goal.
Awesome. Bereavement Center. So, the financial hat.
So, number one critical success factor for financial sustainability is a lot of key partners. Loved the list of partners that were involved in that.
Well, I'm going to build off that. And partners mean good social connections, and means that you have people and organizations feeding into what you're doing. So ding, 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 ding.
Okay.
It was good, but a few things that I wanted to add were that they do have a wellness center, so incorporating gardening or green therapy, horticultural therapy would maybe help out with that. And I know they are partnering with architects and builders, so maybe having some water energy conservation efforts towards their building will really help reduce the maintenance costs. So with those additions, maybe a little bit better.
Okay, awesome. Great feedback.
While it wasn't spoken, part of what was shown on the video was a flash of the mission of the church, and it talks about the connection between mind, body, and spirit. So it'd be interesting to hear what spiritual practices might be incorporated into some of the wellness programs. Would be an interesting thing to explore.
Great. Thank you, panelists. So they're not here, so we can't ask questions, but that's our second pitch from Montreal. So again, if you have any comments that you want to put in here, please, you can mail them to them. So our third pitch is yoga worship, all the way from Saxville, Nova Scotia.
At United Church in Lower Sackville, Nova Scotia. Here's my dream. I'm a yoga teacher, and when I owned a yoga studio before coming to AST to study, I realized that people are looking for something more. I started teaching yoga at church and calling it Stretch Your Faith. Yoga catered to people that are looking how to put Christianity and their yoga practice together. My dream is to create a teacher training program that would train lay people and clergy alike to teach yoga in their churches as a way to invite the community into church, to find spirituality in church. I'd be able to start this teacher training program, write the curriculum, and advertise it. And after that, it takes off on its own. Yogis are naturally more environmentally aware because they're connected to the idea that all of us are one. And so we have a tendency to respect creation in such a way that we want to take care of it.
Our God, who is in heaven, holy is your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For yours is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
The yoga worship.
So for me, financially, this one is not a stretch at all. I love plans that find new ways to use the resources that we already have. Here's a Christian, she's already a yoga teacher. We've got space in churches, cinemas, concert performances, all those kinds of things are great synergy for church.
I think she started at the right place, but what I would like to see as this grows and she talks about writing curriculum and sharing it with others, I'd like to see her reach out to more people to get them into the process of her development of this, because as she reaches out to more people, she'll understand the needs. So for example, maybe there's a need for a specialized yoga class, a sitting yoga for seniors, things like that. So she might, with more consultation, she might even be able to expand it more.
Great feedback, thank you.
So yoga is definitely a great way to connect to the environment and to your surroundings. So I think this is a great idea if it's done outside and it allows people to appreciate nature and connect to it more. That would be great.
Exciting to see embodiment and spirituality coming together, that embodied prayer, whether it's movement to words or words through movement, really powerful idea.
Thank you, panelists, and great work. Okay, so our next one, and actually before we go to the next one, is there a Nick from Kimborn Park? Okay, so we're going to do, you can see, you're actually after this. Okay, perfect, yes. Okay. And we do have your pictures.
Okay, great.
Okay, great. So the fourth pitch is all the way from Saskatchewan, Alameda, and it's Better Quality Friday Nights.
Our idea is to use our newly renovated kitchen in Alameda to do something to reach out into the community. On the first Friday of the month, we want to have kids cooking classes where kids and teenagers 9 and up would each have a cooking class and eat their creations together. The second Fridays would be the art of pasta. A couple of kinds of pasta and a couple of kinds of sauce, plus salad and garlic bread are the heart of this evening, followed up by art class options. On third Fridays, potlucks and games. Simple get-together for a meal, followed by the option to play board games or group games. Fourth Fridays would be pizza and movie night. Homemade pizza, followed by a family-friendly movie on one floor, informal discussion, or perhaps United Church 101 on the other. The fifth Fridays, we would take a Sabbath. Throughout the 16-week trial, we would seek to find out what the needs of the community are and how the church might reach more into the community. And now for brass tacks. The budget required would be $150 in groceries per week for 16 weeks, $2,400. Some specialized cooking equipment, 4 large pots, some large sheet pans for pizza, would be about $280. Advertising in the local paper, $400. High chairs and booster seats, purchased secondhand, for about $100. The total, $3,180. Financial impact and sustainability. This would be seed money. We'd be asking for free will donations to cover ingredients if people are able. We expect a mix of people to partake over time, some with a steady income and some that are in extreme financial stress due to the oil industry slowdown in our area. Over time, and as it gains popularity, we expect it to become self-sustaining. The social impact, we feel, will provide a gathering place for people of all ages, but especially stressed young families who need to be fed both by food and the value of strong community. We want to begin to introduce United Church theology to them, as well as the value of belonging to a generation of people that may not be familiar with either. We feel the informal nature of the project will encourage people to participate once or twice a month. We're designing it in a way that won't produce a lot of stress in volunteers. The ecological impact is that we will be encouraging home-cooked and whenever possible local food, which makes a big ecological statement in the world. It reduces our environmental footprint. It encourages learning about cooking and eating nutritious food, and by lowering the average cost of shipping the food we eat. Making our own fun is also an ecological statement. We don't need to go far away to find joy and excitement and deliciousness. The spiritual impact, we hope that having the opportunity to gather in new ways will begin to create a new understanding of what spirituality is and how exploring questions of faith can be alternately exhilarating, comforting, and life-changing. We will try to find small ways each time to introduce opportunities for some accessible spiritual input, whether through individual discussions, a small and optional Bible study, or perhaps just some thoughts for the day. The presence of clergy, who would be as much participants as leaders, might begin some conversations that might not happen otherwise. So, give us a chance, and if you want, and you're in the area, come and eat with us.
God is good all the time. All the time, God is good.
Testing. Is anybody else amazed at these videos? Like, holy Mackinac. I just want to. So I have nothing to add to this one. I think they developed the four very well in the financial one, so I won't spend time.
My biggest concern is that while they're doing this and while they're having such a great time and while it's being so successful, someone will forget to keep track of what people said they wanted and who came. And so I want to encourage them to keep track, because that's how they're going to be able to build on the future, is by keeping track of what's happening while they do it.
Really, really like this idea. I really liked how they talked about eating healthy and eating local. Definitely will decrease their ecological footprint. Just going further, maybe they can start maybe a community garden. They can grow their own food. That'll really decrease the financial impact as well as the ecological. And pooling together the resources, maybe having potlucks instead of going out and buying the food, will also help with that as well.
Great idea, and what a wonderful opportunity to explore some spiritual program with kids, have some spiritual language for them around food and food confidence. Great linkages could be made.
Thanks again. And just a reminder, do provide feedback too, so keep on doing the notes. And one other broadcast.
Breaking news. We've only done half of the announcement of the new name. Drum roll, please. No. En français. It's pretty much the same. Carry on. Accueillir l'esprit.
Thank you. And now we have another live pitch, and it's Nick from Kimborn Park. Thank you.
So good afternoon, everyone. And I'm speaking today from representing Kimborn Park United Church, which is a small church, maybe 50 people, 40 out on a Sunday. It's near Coxwell and Danforth in the east end of downtown Toronto. For a long time, they have been working with innovative services, innovative music, a lot from More Voices, and very provocative preaching by our minister, Michael Cottrell. It's LGBT positive. And in recent years, we've been looking for other ways to both work in the community and to meet the needs of people who are affected by poverty. So we have both people affected by poverty, with mental illness, with other illnesses in the area. There's been a lot of gentrification. There's also some people in the middle class who live in the area but are not connected with the church, and we are interested in bringing them in to develop more community. So we've done three things, the last of which is the focus of the presentation today. We became more active in a food bank and operated by, and a community meal operated by a neighboring church, Glen Roads United. They have helped us with we've helped them, but they've also helped us with the breakfast program. We have begun a permaculture garden, vegetable garden on our land, which is just immediately to the side of the church building. And this has been going for about 3 years. It is has some Toronto Conference funding. And the topic of interest today is a breakfast that we offer or have offered for the last 2 months, and we're continuing to work and to pilot on Sunday mornings. And instead of taking part in a service, we now are giving service. So everyone is invited. It's been publicized in the food bank I just mentioned and in some social services agencies near the church. And it has also been publicized around the neighborhood. All are welcome. So there's no preaching. We're using a fresh expressions model, which means that we go and ask people about their interests and needs first. And then after that, if they express interest in spirituality or want to come to the church, they're certainly made welcome. So we try to offer we offer a hot breakfast. It's cooked up the day before. There's usually about 20 volunteers from the church who also serve it on Sunday morning. So in addition to serving the meals, we circulate, we talk to people, we listen to what they have to say. And okay, we have a hot breakfast, as I mentioned. For those who are vegetarian, there's also a non-meat option available. Okay, so the results. This is very new right now, but last two weeks ago, we had about 50 people show up, about 20 people in the church volunteers. So there would be about 30 people who came out and had breakfast from the community. One person actually came out the first time and has started coming to the church. And we do find, I think the most important thing in terms of evaluating the program, initially, we did find out that we have the people to come out and carry out the program, because without that, there would be no program. So, we recognize a number of people from the food bank. So as I said, we've only done it twice. If you're in Toronto on Sunday morning, the next one will be on the third Friday of August. So thank you very much.
So I didn't catch. Are you? Is there a charge for the breakfast? Is there a free will offering?
There is. They can give a free will offering, but it's entirely voluntary.
Okay, excellent. I like that. People participate as they can. Yes. Partnerships, more partnerships. Keep it going.
How do people find out?
It's publicized in the neighborhood. There's a poster set up around the neighborhood. There's even a sign outside the church entrance.
Okay.
As well, we are sending. We've made it known in local food banks and social agencies.
Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest. Reaching out to as many social agencies, other churches, anywhere, people will be able to spread the word.
Okay.
Really happy with the garden that you have. So
Right.
Using local resources, local food, and getting people who are attending the breakfast to kind of work on their garden, so it's more of a long-term procedure for them.
The garden was started 3 years ago. It is also open to people in the community.
Okay.
Anyone who wishes to come out.
Great.
Some have become involved in the church, but they are under no obligation to do so.
Mm-hmm.
And half of the produce goes to the people who work the garden.
Mm-hmm.
The other half goes to that food bank.
Oh, perfect. So great idea. Keep doing what you're doing, and good luck.
Sounds exciting. One of the things I heard really clearly from the spiritual perspective was the community itself was able to practice the act of serving, of giving service, and that sounded pretty powerful on the community side. On the side of being an open and welcoming space where folks that visit the program might then wish to take a deeper step into the community, would be interesting to hear a little bit more about how those invitations are made and how the welcome is made, and who would be ready to accompany folks through what might be a strange step through a door, right?
Okay, I agree. That is something we are working on, more or less working as we're going.
Yeah, no, it's exciting.
So the next one is from Newfoundland, and it's the New Women's Group.
Unreverend Sellers of Carroll United Church, Labrador City, Newfoundland. In 2012, my community of faith entered into an intentional inter-ministry, and through it, as well as my leadership over the past 2 years, we have heard the Spirit calling us to connect more readily with those traditionally a part of, but presently on the fringes of our church family, especially our young women. We therefore envision piloting a new women's ministry group that will focus on faith, leadership building, mission, and relationships as participants come to know themselves as Spirit-filled creations. As the Spirit moves, we believe these followers of Jesus will be self-supporting over time. However, in the short term, we're seeking a $5,000 grant to help kickstart this new ministry in early October, including the purchase of a remote-operated screen for our visual projection system that we are finding it too costly to purchase at this time. This upgrade to our existing technology will not only assist women and other groups, such as our Little Ambassadors group, to be more engaged during their gatherings, but will be critical in assisting them to be more involved in the wider ministry of our church, as they share with the wider community through rallies and the like what makes them United Church Christians. Emphasis on social justice, inclusiveness, multi-faith relations, respect for creation, just to name a few. Within 5 years, we expect this group to be community in makeup as participants are changed themselves and develop ongoing partnerships. Help Carroll United Church answer the call of the Spirit.
So, a very interesting and eye-grabbing choice to go sideways on the video. I hope they didn't overspend on the budget on that. It is a different perspective on the old story. That's mine.
Yeah, I mean, they have their community that they're connecting with, and I think that's what they set out to do, and that's very clear.
So just some suggestions for me would include having some of their discussions or their gatherings geared towards just environmental issues, talking about that, how the church can help with raising awareness within their congregation, and maybe leading events such as community cleanups and things like that would help with the ecological aspect.
What I was hearing was the connection between offering community, a space to gather in community, and the outcome of being mission. What I wasn't able to hear was whether there is kind of a critical mass of folks to join the community. But it's a sound idea to take community and identify together what kind of mission focus they might take up. So from a spiritual perspective, there's potential there.
So, pitch number 7 is Single Mums at Tansley. Tansley's in Burlington.
Coming to this organized group for moms has helped not just myself but my son, and I think that opening up my story to other mothers has provided a safe space for everyone to add their input on this journey. Everybody's story needs to be heard.
I recently got a job with the city through the Single Moms program. Gave me the support and all the guidance that I needed.
It was a great way to get my daughter to come out and meet other friends as well.
Gives my son a break, a safe space, food to eat, friends to play with, and people to look up to.
Biggest thing is just being able to come out, have one night out, not to worry about cooking, and just hang out with other adults and other kids and know that you're not alone in everything that's going on.
I have a very good friend that I met here, and I explained to her about my situation, how I get depressed sometimes. If you call me, I will not pick up the phone. She wait till I'm ready to call her, and then everything is great. Really happy to be here because without this group, I will not be there. Able to do things in front of people. Being with the single mother group, I was able to sing in front of everybody.
For me, it's a place where I can speak and be heard, a place where I can be held and hugged, and it's a place where I feel a healing.
I'm just struck by a number of these presentations. You cannot underestimate the economic impact and benefit from ensuring that people, investing in people so that they are spiritually, mentally, physically, and emotionally healthy. And I know there are other bottom lines to address that, but I wanted to note that. In this example and the previous one, I also want to point to there are many, in terms of partnerships and alternative funding streams, there are many foundations that would support this kind of work. Look at your city foundations, community foundations. There are religious foundations, and in fact, EDGE has a grant search and application process to help with that. Find a variety of revenue streams to help support the work going forward. Again, good use. Some of the great principles around financial sustainability. Use the resources you have in new ways, like the front yard, make it a garden, and so on. Good.
This idea is all social. Social connections, social benefits, social outcomes, and those connections are what drive everything. It's great.
I really like children activities such as nature walks or going out to conservation areas. I'm from Burlington, so there's what we do to connect to nature for them. Matching fund.
It's a community that's been built. Sense of clear connection, compassion lifted in people's lives. The piece that I'd like to hear more about is on the Tansley United Church side of how the folks that are serving and offering this space are being impacted as well. That there's a spiritual practice for them that's at work here.
One, Oxbow Glen Ewan is Dramatic Flair. Please read carefully, it's pretty funny.
Dramatic flair. Our idea is to enhance dramatic opportunities and skills for youth and adults in the area in lead up to a fundraising dinner theater. There will be 3 phases. Phase 1 is Drama Camp, a weekend of drama instruction for interested youth and adults. There would be sections on improvisation, character development, and ensemble acting. Phase 2 would be ongoing rehearsals in preparation for a dinner theater, including a short 1-act play for teens as well as one performed by adults. Phase 3 is the production, 2 or 3 performances over a weekend in November. This will capture the Christmas party market for businesses. Social impact. This would be offered to enhance programming at a newly formed youth drop-in center. In addition, it would enliven the local drama community, which is in need of a renewal, but happens to have several United Church members as regular participants. Local dramas tend to be very popular in rural Saskatchewan and bring people together for laughter, food, and fun. Financial impact. We see the eventual production as a significant fundraiser. Having the seed money to carry would assist for a ticket and meal package of $25 and having audiences of 75 to 100 people. Most of the food and labor would be donated. Ultimately, we are seeking to have more staff time within our church, which is what the fundraising is for. Except quality and tell the Christian story. We feel that the sense of community formed by those participating in the various phases of the project would bring enhanced creative experiences. Budget. Drama instruction. 2 instructors for 2 days at $400 per person per day is $1,600. Babysitting for the adult participants, $200. Marketing in the local paper, posters, and radio, $400. Production venue rental at the local high school, $500. Costuming, lighting, and rentals, $400. For a total of $3,100. We hope you love our idea as much as we do, and that you're willing to help our communities bring some dramatic flair to the area.
So good to see the financial aspect so specifically addressed in, dare I say, such a gripping fashion. Yeah, so this is a part, right? Building a budget isn't that, it's not rocket science really. You just set out what the costs are and be creative about how you find the revenue to match it. So well done.
I think this is great, and I also think that as far as social aspect goes, they've reached out quite a bit. There are some alternatives. They've got this in plan, so they might not want to reach out any wider. But as people see these plays that are going to be made and produced, I think they're going to get us creating more social connections. Connections. I think that's what will happen for this group.
So definitely good quality local entertainment is always good for the environment. Perhaps using their artistic and spiritual approach to their program and talking about environmental issues maybe in their play would be great. I know they have a fundraising dinner at the end, so again, pulling together the resources, using local food, make sure we're not producing too much waste at the event would be great, in addition to the program itself.
I have a sense that there's going to be a fair bit of humor involved here, and holy humor would be really great. But the sense of story, embodying story, and sharing story in evocative ways is well on its way in this pitch.
So thank you. And last but not least, we have Jesus, Jazz, and Wisdom with Pete Woods and Joe Ramsey. Okay, perfect.
This is the group. This is the groove. Help me keep it going. 1, 2, 3, 4. Our ability to treat open space and time and give it a little bit of shape. It's part of our faith journey. It's part of a musical journey. And in this presentation I'll offer you the next few moments, the idea is that we find a home for jazz and our faith story in the same beat, the same groove. Don't stop. You are the drums. Faith communities frequently fail to find their groove. Faith communities frequently fail to follow their groove. Faith communities frequently falter at fostering the groove within their community. And here's the big one. Faith communities frequently fear the fundamental freedom found in their actual grooviness. You can take a break for now. We can fix this. And the fix, there's lots of us trying to find a fix for this. The fix that I bring before you today is the fix called jazz. It's also called improvised music. It can be singer-songwriter driven. It's improvised. It can be extremely free. It can be within the great old tradition of classic jazz. There's lots of ways to approach it, but it is that sense of unlocking the energy within and having a conversation within our musical community that is faith-driven, faithful, spiritual, spontaneous, and intimate. That's where what I bring before you anyway is my colleague James McGowan, who's a pianist and professor at Carleton University in performance and jazz theory. He and I have prepared the possibility of creating an ensemble based in Ottawa that would delve deeply into the ecology of United Church hymnody and song, going deep into more voices, Voices United, also popular song and the blues. And in that place, these communities as well. We've already begun partnering with Anglican, Presbyterian churches in Ottawa, any place where that sort of jazz and worship has been open door. Trying to take that to another level by working with professional musicians in the Ottawa area, especially within the Musicians Union. So recognizing the need to not only experience music, but to be spiritually connected to our musical professional community wherever we find ourselves. We locate ourselves at home, where I'm at Mackay United Church in Ottawa, and beyond that in throughout Ottawa. As we come into 2017, it's going to be the 150th anniversary of Canada. A lot of energy focused around Ottawa, and we look forward to providing 3 to 5 events, jazz-inspired events with a loose ensemble of professional musicians who are seeking to have this conversation within our broader community. By doing so, we look forward to opening the door to a bigger conversation about how it is that we inspire one another to be spontaneous and adapting at this time. We've been doing this for years. We've been building bands and finessing repertoire. What we really need right now, what we're seeking right now, is that social mentoring that will help us move to a different level, to be able to work not just catch as catch can, but to really target places and people and enable proper payment for professional musical services as well. So building those relationships, enhancing the musical life of the church, and in a sense, coming and doing gigs. Because part of it is simply having that fun that then engages us in other social enterprises, spiritual enterprises, and opening, I think, ourselves up to that spirit that is far more improvisational than sometimes our church structures have allowed for. So breathing that into the denomination or into our local community. We are going to be doing those events starting in fall of 2016 and then building into 2017. From there, we see where we go. So we'll just finish off with a little quote from Louis Armstrong. Said, "Jazz is played from the heart. You can even live it, always love it. Faith is played from the heart. Faith, you can even live by it, and you can always love it."
Love the idea, and the service product, I'm not sure what to talk about, is desperately needed, and if it can release the energy and the music and congregational singing and worship, huge market. Not sure exactly how the financial model works. I like the idea of providing fair compensation for musicians. I think the church and society generally gets way more from our artistic musicians than we pay for. So it might have been helpful to have a hat. I'll pass this one. Anyway, but there are lots of ways to monetize this, and you've probably thought about it both in terms of performance. There can be admissions, providing services, music, and so on that can come out of it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that develop more.
You're connecting with a lot of people in your area, and I know you want to reach out. So let's exchange contact information. I may have a few ideas of some people to connect with in the bigger province and wider.
Great idea. Definitely having the ecological aspect to it is difficult, but I like that you're using professional talent and connecting people that way and getting people.
And the reality that has with the LB have a profound impact on your own internal spiritual reflection and be a real motivator around leaps of faith that you might take. So the metaphor works really well. Yeah.
My card's here. You want a gig? Right there.
So we have a question.
It's not a question. I want to make a statement.
Pete and I work together in Ottawa, and one of the things we've done that's not showing here, we did make a movie about it, but it couldn't be shown for some reason, was that we go to residential homes where people are living and have a variety of challenges that they're facing, and we play gigs for them, and music has the power to heal everybody and bring everybody together, and there's something really radical about him being a minister, and so it's really good for the church, and Mackay United pays him to go and do this, right? So there's something very radical about being out there, not preaching, although they always want Amazing Grace. I don't know why, but anyways they do. But we can do that if they want it. But being there as a presence with music, it seems to build bridges where words have failed us.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to get you, actually, when we wrap up, you can jam out, so in like 3 minutes. So I wanted to thank our panelists here. So big, huge round of applause, amazing feedback. I think all the ideas can definitely take something back from what you've said. And I mean, having those mentors, getting feedback from people, and then our first speaker just talking about act. Go to where there's yes. I mean, take that, go 2 feet in and try and risk that. And so I think innovation in church makes sense. I think that we've seen that today. And I can only hope that Chasing the Spirit, now Embracing the Spirit, is as inspiring for people as the people who all of our speakers have been, I think, for us today. So thank you very much. And looking forward to hearing more of your ideas. I'm Carla Leon. If you have an idea, if you want to apply for an innovation grant, please talk to me. Thank you so much for everyone's time.
Thanks, Carla.
Go for it.
We do it right now.